Let's start in KwaZulu-Natal, where in Chatsworth, near Durban now, there is a political battle for the suburb. The DA leader, John Steenhuisen, is visiting Ward 73 area ahead of a by-election next week. You'll remember last week, President Cyril Ramaphosa also made an appearance in Chatsworth seeking political support for the ANC. Let's go straight to Karinda Jagmohan now, our reporter who's covering the event for us. Karinda, thanks for making time. What are we expecting there today?
Well, good day to you. We do expect, of course, the DA federal leader, John Steenhuisen, to come through any time now. But like you mentioned, this community event is happening just ahead of the by-election for this ward, which will take place on Wednesday. Now, like you mentioned, the ANC was here last week, but I'm going to speak to Dean McPherson from the DA. So, of course, the most glaring thing right now in the media has been the ANC handing out T-shirts to what they say was 100 DA members. But the party says you don't recognize those as DA members. Tell me what happened last week.
Well, there's only one recognizable member, and that's our former member who's crossed to the ANC. We don't believe that they were genuine DA members. They produced no membership cards or anything like that. So it was nothing other than a political trick and stunt by the ANC. And it's the hallucinations of a political party that thinks that it can come and win in Chatsworth. This is DA territory, this is DA land, and we're very confident ahead of this by-election next Wednesday.
Certainly. Right now we know eThekwini is also in a coalition council as well. But when you are campaigning here, what are you offering the members of the community that are coming forward in terms of upping their voice?
Well, we offer councillors that are responsive, that are attentive to the community's needs, that are on the ground with them, that are speaking for them and not at them, and that are, of course, not involved in corruption, tender irregularities, as we continue to see. Just this week, the orange bags for recycling and for waste removal in the city, that tender has collapsed once again. 60 million rand disappeared. And so the ANC just can't help themselves. They're in terminal decline, and as they continue to decline, they're going to continue to steal more. And it's really a tragedy what they are doing to the city, supported by smaller parties, some coming from communities like in Chatsworth. That said, they were going to oppose the ANC and now support the ANC. And residents can be rest assured that the DA will continue to oppose the corruption, oppose the maladministration, and push to ensure that the city actually is placed under administration. We will be the voice for residents, and we will ensure that what the ANC is too afraid to do for political reasons, we're going to continue to be the voice of reason and pressure to ensure that the city ultimately is put under provincial administration.
I'm keen to know where the blockage is at, because on the ground the resident is worried about a sewage leak outside his home, and they believe that their councillor with the DA-ANC should solve the problem. When you go to council with this problem, what happens, because it's not fixed?
Yeah, well, what we do is, we have a situation in the city where there is political paralysis. Because there is this coalition, you have a mayor who's more interested in his singing and dancing career than he is in actually in government and governance. And so the officials don't know where to take direction from. We have a city manager who's embroiled in a scandal where he was named in a city integrity unit in a report, and the question of whether he should have been appointed in the first place has now come to the boil. So officials don't know which way to go. So you've got councillors like DA councillors that are working hard on the ground to get issues fixed and to get services delivered. And you've got officials that are captured by political formations in the city, not knowing which faction of the ANC or which side of the coalition they should be taking instructions from. And that's the tragedy of what has befallen this city, is that service delivery has ground to a halt. But we don't believe that all hope is lost. We continue to fight for residents on their behalf, and we always argue that, where the DA is in charge of a ward, that at least they have a voice, at least there is some form of service delivery, you have someone fighting on their behalf, whereas whether you go to an ANC ward, the ANC councillor is not even existent, they don't know who they are. So that's what we offer residents in a by-election like this.
Just to take it forward as well, next week eThekwini will return to the full load shedding schedule. From the council's perspective, what are your concerns about our city's grid to manage that even in the wake of the floods?
Well, it's a complete disgrace that we're even in this situation, because the city should have spent 200 million rand upgrading electrical infrastructure. Instead, they decided to channel that towards EPWP jobs so they could distribute patronage within ANC wards. And so the truth is that we aren't of the view that the infrastructure and grid within the city is stable enough to take on the additional load shedding schedule. That's why we called for an emergency EXCO meeting, and that was the first time that we became aware of what was actually going on in the city. The mayor had not bothered to update the city manager had not bothered to update the city. The first time we knew about this was through rumours coming out of Eskom. Now that is just, it's failed and poor leadership, and so, we are very concerned of what's going to happen. We don't think that the city is ready for it. Certainly, if the DA was in charge, we would be telling Eskom, that they have to hold off. But we wouldn't be in this place. We wouldn't be in this place in the first instance if they had just fixed what they should have over the last year, and that's what they should have done, and they haven't done it.
So, hence your call for the city to come under administration. What impact do you think that would have?
Well, I think the reality is that the ANC have given up governing in this city. As I said, we have a mayor who's more interested in being an entertainer than he is in being a mayor. The ANC have terrible factions within the city and within the province. And so, this 154 intervention is nothing other than trying to placate the ANC factions. Now, last week, President Ramaphosa was in eThekwini, and he didn't mention a single negative thing about the city or about the ANC. In fact, he was happy with how things are going and said that the PEC of the ANC was not going to be disbanded. Now, that is lunacy, quite frankly. If you believe that the ANC is doing such a good job, why do they lose by-election after by-election? Why is the city needing an intervention in the first place? And we think that there's only one solution, and that's full administration, to appoint an administrator and to do the job that the politicians of the executive should be doing, because they're clearly incapable of doing it.
Mr. Dean McPherson, thank you so much for your time there. Now, just speaking ahead, of course, of the community visit by the DA, we do expect the federal leader, John Steenhuisen, to come to town as well. So again, this event is happening just ahead of the by-election that's happening on Wednesday. The ANC was here last year, and so really what we see is a political battle, like you mentioned, for this particular ward, because currently eThekwini is in a coalition council. The ANC has the support of the NFP and the EFF to have the positions that they enjoy in the executive council, but now opposition parties like the DA as well as other opposition parties are gunning for this municipality to be placed under administration because of the service delivery failures that we are seeing on the ground in terms of the sewage leaks, and of course concerns now that the city's power grid might collapse in the face of the full load shedding schedule resuming. Just after the April floods, Durban was granted some relief, experiencing load shedding or the power cuts about once or twice a day because infrastructure was already destroyed. Now that this infrastructure is expected to meet the full demand of load shedding and the power cuts, so power going off and coming on, residents on the ground, or at least this politician, is concerned about what impact this might have on that infrastructure. And of course, the conversation across the country right now is concerns about the grid, the national grid collapsing too. So that's what we're going to speak to some of the residents that are here currently, not necessarily the DA voters that are here in their regalia, but those who are coming out to find out what the new councillor candidate might offer them, especially because this is, or any by-election right now in eThekwini is critical, considering the fact that it might either make or break the municipality for the ANC, which is currently in that coalition.
Karinda, Jagmohan, live to us from Durban. Thank you.